Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over a big thunderstorm outbreak which is going to be taking place over parts of the Tennessee Valley and the Mid-Atlantic. Luckily this is going to be happening north of the areas yesterday in Alabama and Mississippi that saw those huge tornadoes that rolled through, potentially EF3, EF4, even maybe an EF5 tornado according to some of the reports. They're still doing the reporting and kind of scavenging through all the data to figure out what EF ranking they're going to put it on, but definitely an EF3 plus tornado that rolled through central Alabama. We saw one supercell that developed 7 or 8 tornadoes within that one storm cell. So we really had a destructive, unfortunately, day yesterday, and we are praying and hoping that all of you guys are safe if you were in the path of those tornadoes. 27 tornadoes over the past 2 days that span from Texas to Georgia. All of those areas saw some sort of tornadoes. Anywhere in between there was really in the threat of tornadoes. 5 fatalities, so 5 deaths out of that, all in central Alabama. All of those deaths were in central Alabama, and 2.75 inches of hail was the highest hail recording. So really a damaging, unfortunately, day yesterday, and we are again praying and hopefully and hoping that you guys are all doing well if you were in the path of that thunderstorm. Also, unrelated to that, but just kind of related to the channel and the upload schedule, I am officially on spring break now, so over the next few days, I believe my spring break ends on April 6th, so all through there, I'm going to be uploading mostly in the morning time. So right now, I try to upload between 1 and 2 p.m. Eastern time on most days, maybe even a little bit earlier if I can, but it's probably going to be even earlier than that. So I'm going to try and go between 9 and 12, 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. Eastern time is when I hope to kind of start uploading over the spring break, and then of course, once I get back to school, it's going to have to go back to the regular schedule. But just to give you kind of a heads up on the schedule changes for when my videos will be going up. So here's what the current National Weather Service page looks like. We have winter weather advisories scattered throughout parts of the Rockies. We have red flag warnings in effect for southeastern New Mexico and southwestern Texas. We have severe thunderstorm warnings, severe thunderstorm watches and warnings for parts of Vermont and upstate New York, believe it or not. So those areas are actually going to be seeing snow later today. So really an upside down type of pattern. We have one county in parts of northern Maine that has a winter weather advisory for up to 5 inches of snowfall, and flood watches also that's getting covered up by the severe thunderstorm watches, but that covers much of Vermont and northern New York as well. We have wind advisories, which stretches all throughout parts of the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic, with even some scattered areas in the golden colors right here, where we actually have some high wind warnings, which are currently in place. We had a high temperature over the continental United States, so the lower 48, and 9 miles east of Dundee, Florida. They got to 94 degrees Fahrenheit. The low temperature was 4 miles southeast of Gold, Colorado, where they got to -2 degrees Fahrenheit. The highest precipitation report was in Leakesville, Mississippi, where they got 3.66 inches of rainfall reported yesterday, and 7 miles southeast of Chupadero, New Mexico. They got 15 inches of snowfall that reported yesterday, and that's basically just east of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and some of the higher elevations where they got quite a bit of snowfall yesterday, and especially the days before there, where some areas in Colorado and Wyoming also saw upwards of 2 feet of reported snowfall. Here's what the current radar looks like, just to give you a brief outlook on what the current situation is, and then we're going to be switching over to what's happening as we get to tomorrow and also into Sunday. We have one real line of thunderstorms that we want to pay attention to. That's the one over the Adirondacks currently. We also have some scattered storms across southern and eastern Maine as well, so you want to watch out for those. This line right here is the most convective and severe out of all of them, and that's going to be heading to the east into Vermont shortly. And the main threat is going to be maybe some penny-sized hail, very small hail, and also potentially some gusty winds as well. So watch out for that. It's definitely not going to be anything that's going to spawn an EF5 tornado or anything like what we saw yesterday over parts of Alabama and Mississippi, but it should be definitely notable considering that these areas don't typically see too much severe weather in the month of March. Here's what the current severe thunderstorm watch looks like. If we were to zoom in, you can see it covers much of Vermont except for one northeastern county and much of northern New York as well. and that's valid until 4 p.m. Eastern time today. And here's what the previous mesoscale discussion was talking about. They were talking about potentially isolated severe gusts and also a tornado possible within this area right here, within this kind of purplish cloud kind of looking figure right here. And then we also have, according to them, destabilization and strong wind fields within this area right here as well. So they are talking about potentially some favorable conditions for thunderstorms and maybe an isolated weak tornado as well. Here's what the current day one outlook looks like for today from the Storm Prediction Center, and we are looking at a marginal risk just scattered over the country. We have 4 different areas of marginal risk, one for the southeast, one for the Tennessee Valley, another one near Kansas and Nebraska, and another one through parts of the interior northeast as well. But focusing on what we're really worried about for tomorrow, we already have an enhanced risk of severe weather in that orange area for parts of Tennessee, Mississippi, and Arkansas, as well as a larger area of slight risk and a huge area of general thunderstorm risk in the light green as well. So we have a wide area that's going to be seeing thunderstorms, and I would say the main bullseye area is going to be from the Tennessee Valley and the Mississippi River Valley eastward into Virginia and North Carolina. That's going to be the main area that you want to pay attention to. Also, just kind of signifying how intense some of these thunderstorms could be, we have a 10% chance of extreme thunderstorms, and they don't classify what they consider extreme. I would assume it means severe gusts over 65 miles per hour, also heavy rain, and potentially a brief tornado, or even more than that as well. So they're talking about a 10% chance of what they classify as an extreme thunderstorm on Sunday for these areas. And if we look at the actual Storm Prediction Center outlook, they have a slight risk of severe weather through much of the mid-Atlantic and the southeast as well. A very large area, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe one pocket, probably in northern North Carolina and southern Virginia, gets into an enhanced risk. We'll have to see about that. It looks like with such a large area of slight risk, it kind of makes sense that they would put at least a tiny area of enhanced risk on their next outlook for tomorrow. Here's what the excessive rainfall outlook looks like, because we do have a 10 to 20% chance or a slight risk of flash flooding in these areas, and that's for the Tennessee Valley as well as some areas in the Gulf states as well that are dealing with another risk of flash flooding, unfortunately. And here's what the RGEM model is showing, because we're going to start to look at what the actual radar presentation may look like. We're going to be seeing this system, which is going to currently just start up right through here. We have scattered storms right through here, but your main storm is actually down here in Texas. So this little area right there is going to be your storm system. We have one more storm system, which is back through here. As this pulls away to the north, it's going to actually make a more amplified pattern, because this storm system to the north is going to raise everything on the eastern side of that further up. So basically, we're going to be dealing with more warm air being pulled up, but what that also means is that we're going to have more cold air being pulled down on the other end, as you get a large difference in dew points that are going to be maybe 20 to 30 degrees on either side of the front, meaning that maybe on one side of the front you have a 70-degree dew point, on the other side of the front you have a 40-degree dew point. That's when you can get some real severe storms, because you know that you have an amplified storm system in that area. So as we play this out, you're going to see that that system rises up from Texas. We're now dealing with an area of thunderstorm activity that's scattered throughout parts of the lower Mississippi River Valley and also into the Tennessee Valley as well. You can see that sharp area of cold air right through here that's pressing further to the south. But you're also starting to see kind of that ridge position, which we have a ridge that's scattered right through here. So one high pressure over here, and that's making the general flow out of the southwest towards the northeast, which means that that storm system is going to want to take a track that's somewhat like this, in between the cold air and in between that high pressure, because that's the path of least resistance, and that's the path that the path of least resistance is the path that that storm is going to want to take, because there's less obstacles in its way. So this would be by Sunday morning. And you can see that we have a rather robust storm system by this point. So we have that low pressure up through here. We have a rather sharp frontal system on the back end. Also notice that in the isobars, these black lines that are kind of scattered throughout your screen right here, we have a V shape in the trough, which indicates usually a severe thunderstorm. And you can see how the V shape in the trough actually corresponds with the radar presentation of a strong line of storms. That's typically a squall line type type of presentation when you're looking at radar. So when you see this in the models, when you see kind of a sharp cutoff line like this, you do want to pay attention, because that's when you could see potentially a rather robust line of storms. And then if we play this forward a little bit more, you can see that that system pulls away further to the north. You have that low pressure up through parts of upstate New York. We have warm air being spread up into the east coast. We have cold air that's being pushed down into the central part of the country. By the way, on the back end, you're going to have temperatures in the 20s and 30s, even as you get further to the south. So we have a very cold air mass that's behind the system relative to this time of year, and that's going to also help amplify the system. You're actually going to be seeing some of that cold air wrap in even on the southern end of things. So it might be colder in Tennessee than it will be in Vermont, potentially, when the system rolls through. And then, of course, it's going to kind of reverse itself and go back to normal after the system. But that just kind of shows you how extreme of a pattern and how upside down our pattern is. And by the way, I think they could put maybe another marginal risk up for parts of the Northeast if what the regional Canadian model is showing is correct, because they have some rather intense bands of rainfall up through parts of the Northeast. You can see again that V shape in the trough right there, and that's generally the axis that it's on. You have that low pressure, which is up through parts of northern upstate New York, and that's heading out further to the east. And by the way, you have a very strong low pressure system. I can't really tell what millibar reading it is. I think it's a 985, but it's gonna kind of getting mixed up with the colors on the screen. But I believe it's a 985 millibar low pressure system. That's very, very strong, and because of that, it's going to be able to pull in a lot of moisture and also warm air, and that could help the thunderstorms kind of build even more. Here's what the high temperatures look like for tomorrow, and this is going to really help these storms. You can see we have mid-70s all through parts of the Tennessee Valley and the mid-Mississippi River Valley as well, and you can see that up through parts of the Carolinas and into Virginia as well, where we have another shot of severe weather. We're also back through the mid and upper 70s for tomorrow, and then when it really hits parts of Virginia and the Carolinas for Sunday, we also have high temperatures, which are still going to be in the upper 60s, even some upper 70s as you get into southeastern Virginia, eastern North Carolina, and down through into South Carolina as well. So we have definitely warm enough temperatures. Really no issue with the temperatures. We have definitely warm enough temperatures. Dew points, they're going to be okay. They're not going to be great in terms of severe weather, but they're definitely manageable, and I think you will have sufficient dew points nonetheless. I just don't think they're going to be anything that could spawn some sort of huge outbreak necessarily, but it could definitely impose some sort of bigger outbreak. We have for Sunday morning some dew points that are already up into the 60s for parts of Tennessee. This is where your storms are going to be by that point. So by Saturday night into Sunday morning, we have rather decent dew points. And if we get into Sunday in the early afternoon, late morning time frame, we have dew points that are in the 60s, getting all the way up to southeastern Pennsylvania, central New Jersey, and south of there. All of these areas that are south and east of this line that I drew are within that 65-degree dew point range. So you're decent enough on the dew points, nothing that's too shabby. But also look at this, behind we have dew points that are in the 20s and 30s. So very, very dry air behind, very, very moist air as you get further to the east of that dry line that's moving through. So definitely that could help the severe thunderstorms be a little bit more intense. Here's what the CAPE looks like, the convective available potential energy, and it looks like we definitely have ample enough of this as well. If you get into kind of this color of blue right through here that you see right there, that's where you're dealing with dew points that are above 500, and anything above that is what I would say is kind of the threshold for a decent thunderstorm. And as you get above 1,000, which you see some of those colors right back through here, that's when you're getting really decent dew points, and that's what could really spawn a good severe thunderstorm and something that could cause some damage, unfortunately. So this would be by Sunday morning. You can see those 500 plus CAPE amounts that are getting all the way up into parts of the Ohio Valley and the Mid-Atlantic there, and definitely high enough in parts of Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina, so no issue through the areas that are going to be dealing with the severe weather. And then here would be by Sunday in the morning time, we're still dealing with dew points that are above 500 all throughout the Chesapeake Bay, eastern North Carolina, eastern Virginia, and that area in general will have CAPE that is definitely high enough to support a thunderstorm and you can see it kind of shrivels out over the afternoon hours, but still you have 500 to 1,000 cape in a lot of these areas, especially in the eastern half of North Carolina and Virginia. Here's also something that I want to kind of point out, and I've been really taking a lot more of a look at this when I've been taking a look at the models recently. During the wintertime, there's really no use to look at the wind shear and the change in direction with height, because all you're really dealing with is where's the rain snow line going to be and where's the track of the storm. But you're not really looking at the wind shear and how it's changing with height. So I've kind of been incorporating that a little bit more, especially as we're getting into severe weather. So in this, with this black line right here, this is the wind direction that's coming out of that's coming from the surface. So this is the surface wind direction. I drew that in black. Now, here's what the just a few thousand feet up in the atmosphere. I would say maybe 3 to 4,000 feet up in the atmosphere, and we're looking at wind directions that are already changing. So you can see that I'm drawing this in yellow now, and you see a wind direction change that's fairly decent, and that's just over about 3 to 4,000 feet up in elevation in the atmosphere. And if we go a little bit higher up there, this would be, I would say, probably this would be around 10,000 feet up or so, and even maybe a little bit higher. We're looking at winds that are kind of going a little bit more like this. So you can see how it goes from straight out of the south to almost west-southwest. So we're going, we have a fairly decent change in wind direction over this Tennessee Valley area. And if I were to kind of do that also for the Mid-Atlantic area, you would also see that we have a decent wind direction shift in those areas as well. So we do have a decent amount of wind shear, and that can definitely help cause some thunderstorms. And the more change in direction with height is what really can help thunderstorms grow a little bit more. It's not needed, but it's definitely one of the components that can help bring a thunderstorm from just an average thunderstorm to really an above average thunderstorm. And you could see even higher up, those wind directions, or the wind direction is even changing a little bit further out of the west. So really something that you want to keep in mind and take note of, because that's another really important facet of severe weather. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.